Hi, I'm Josie and I went on a Girlguiding International trip to Nepal in 2018. Our trip was to a place called Lukla. That's where our project was centred, in sort of the very northern, near the border part of Nepal. And it was actually just sort of in the bottom of the Everest National Park, so we were right in the Himalayas, so there was some gorgeous scenery around. Our project was focused on feminine hygiene and female health in young girls in rural areas of Nepal, because there can be quite a lot of period poverty, and we were trying to educate and teach girls that everything about them is perfectly normal and you're okay, sort of thing. So yeah, when we arrived at Lukla, we were doing our project teaching sessions on their health, hygiene and empowerment to two different schools. One school was like an hour and a half trek down the side of a mountain. It was long, it took a really long time to get there, and it was really funny because all our guides lived in Lukla, so we're really used to, you know, trekking for ages to get to places. And actually the altitude of Lukla was, I think, just under 3,000 meters, which is kind of where altitude sickness sort of thing can happen. So we were all getting really out of breath and they were just like, let's go. So yeah, we spent just one full kind of Saturday at one school, and then we spent, I think, 4 days at another school, which was thankfully much closer to where we were staying. We taught a bunch of different sessions to girls about their health, and we also gave them sort of period packages with reusable pads and, you know, a spare couple of pair of knickers for them to use when they get their periods. And those were made by Days for Girls, which is a charity, and they actually have a base sort of located in Kathmandu, which is the capital of Nepal, which we got to visit when we went back to Kathmandu. It was a really, really nice place to go. So yeah, my group that I taught was a group of girls about 10, 11, 12-ish. So I think when we actually spoke to them, none of them had started their periods, so that was actually a really good time to kind of get in and help them learn more about themselves before they actually started to get their periods. But also we kind of felt that doing all those things was a bit heavy, a bit full on, so we also, you know, played games with them and sang songs, and all of them were Girlguiding related, of course. But one of them that they really, really enjoyed was Splat Bang, and actually we played like a school-wide game of Splat Bang with them. They had a great time, and so did I. It was really, really fun. We all had a lot of laughs. But one song that we actually did was this campfire song called Linger that I actually hadn't heard of before, but was a really, really sweet song, and we all sang it together. And then on the last night of our project, the last night of our project in Lukla, we had like sort of a celebration, and there was some like traditional dancing and stuff. But we all sang Linger together, and it's supposed to be sang on like the last night of a campfire before you all say goodbye to each other the next morning. And so we were all crying our eyes out at this celebration. Bad luck, but you know, what can you do? But at that celebration, each one of the girls in our groups gave us these things called katas, which is a scarf supposed to that you're supposed to give to like a friend or a relative when you're like celebrating something. And I have a couple of them here with me now. I'll just put them on. So there's one. They're really, really pretty, and they're supposed to celebrate something, but they gave them to us while we were just about to leave. But I think the class that I was teaching had about 25 to 30 girls in it, and each one of them gave us a kata each, and I counted at the end of the trip, and by the end of the trip I had 33 katas, and I've all got them, and they're still in my room over there, which is why I'm looking over there. And I love them very much, and they're really, really beautiful, and obviously impossible to think about anything other than the trip when you see them. So I really, really love them. But then after we got back from Lukla, we got to Kathmandu, which is again the capital, and we had two like Nepali guides that were taking us around the trip, Dawa and Samden, and they took us to a bunch of Buddhist monasteries and stupas, which are kind of sort of temples in Buddhism that are related to the Buddha, and they're really, really gorgeous. And a lot of the monasteries are actually built on top of ridges in Kathmandu Valley, so you get a really, really gorgeous view of like the whole city. They're really, really nice places, and so different to England, because Buddhism and Hinduism aren't really that widespread religions in this country, so seeing something that different was really, really exciting. And we got taken to some Hindu temples, and because in Hinduism they have loads of different gods, they have temples for like every single different god, so there's so many temples around on like every street corner. But there was also this area that we got taken to, and there were just temples upon temples everywhere, and it was really, really beautiful. So yeah, that was nice. And Dawa and Samdan actually took us out to get loads of like street foods and like restaurants, and there's this Nepali food called momos, and they're like dumplings basically, and they are so good, and I like can't even think about how many I probably ate on that trip. It's probably embarrassingly a big number. But at the very end of the trip, I think on our last, maybe second to last night in Nepal, Dawa actually took us to his house, and his wife and daughters made us all momos for like dinner, and they were really, really nice, and it was such a sweet, sweet moment. Yeah, that's a very short, brief overview of my trip. There were so many other things that I did, and every single day I did something new that I loved, and I remember very clearly. And every once in a while I go through my little travel diary that I kept, and I've got some pictures into each page and stuff like that, and I read it all the time, and sometimes I do cry because it was such a good experience. And yeah, overall I cannot say how much my international trip helped me as a person. I learned so much about myself and how I cope in certain situations, and that's really, really helped me, even though I'm only 18, you know, still got a lot of life ahead of me, but I know that it's helped me. It's helped my communication skills and teamwork, of course, and just how to deal with stress quickly and just, you know, pull yourself together, because there are certain times where something goes wrong and you're like, oh god. And without my international trip, I wouldn't have been able to deal with situations like that. I also got to meet the friendliest, funniest people ever. My trip was made infinitely better by the people that I spent it with, and every person that I've spoken to that's been on an international trip has been with a group that they've really, really gelled with, and everyone's friends and everyone has a laugh, and it's a really, really good time. And I think there can be a lot of nerves about going on an international trip, because you know you've never been that far away from home for such a long amount of time with people that you don't know that well. But I just, nerves are normal and that's to be expected, but I don't think that's any reason to write off an international trip, because if I got any chance to do an international Girlguiding trip again, I would, and I would absolutely tell anyone who is thinking about it to do it. You will learn, see, do, experience so much more than you will ever experience in your life in a 2-week period on an international trip, and that is facts. International trips are incredible, and a spot on an international trip is just waiting for you to take it if you want it, and I would absolutely tell you to do it. So